You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you a little bit about our current sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. As you well know, if you've been following This is Oklahoma, they've been a huge part of this podcast. So this podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling an Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Also, for the podcast, a new sponsor this year that's just come on board and super excited to announce RCB Bank. Since 1936, RCB Bank has offered progressive products and a friendly service. Come in today to find out more about their loan promotion on new, used, refinanced cars, boats, campers, and ATVs. Visit RCB Bank to learn more. RCB Bank, that's my bank. With approved credit, restrictions apply. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Yeah, so you went through that kind of like the huge growth in the 80s. You come to the 90s, CDs, you got CDs and other stuff, and music's obviously changing, car audio's changing, It's got different sizes of cars and everything like that, but, and you're going internationally as well, all this stuff's going on. What were the 90s like with, I guess, technology coming in, and the internet and stuff like that?
Well, it was real different, and it was not, and that's where we started to plateau out and realize that, it takes more than just being in the right place at the right time to have continuing success. Mm-hmm. And so we had to develop a marketing department and sales department and develop new technologies and kind of move on, stay updated, hire younger people that are more in tune with what's happening today. In the 80s we were struggling with, should we get a computer? And the first computer I got, we never actually got it working. Ended up just throwing it away. And so, there was that period of, should we get a fax machine? Well, they're $3,000 for a fax machine when they first came out. But people want to fax in their orders so they're correct. Because when you do it over the phone, well, I thought you said S instead of X, and, you ship them the wrong thing.
Different accents from 50 states and around the world.
Right. Yeah. So all that stuff, that we had to adapt and go through. But fortunately, one thing I realized is that you've got to hire people that know more than you do. You can't think you know everything. Mm-hmm. And if you're just a one-man show, you'll be the glass ceiling on your whole business. It'll never get bigger than just you. And so I think over time I came to really appreciate people that were especially talented in different areas and really kind of covet those people and want to hire those people that you could see, wow, he understands computers. Yeah. He knows how to write programs. He can make this for our business to handle all these problems that we have internally and things like that. So I'm not saying that I totally embraced all the technologies, but I embraced the people that could operate those technologies. And still today, there's a limit to my engineering skills, but I have engineers that know how to run programs and analyze speakers with different programs and systems that I can't do, but I understand basically how things work, but I pass that off to someone else. So I think a lot of the growth is especially for an entrepreneur, is realizing you're going to have to pass things off to other people. Just save what you're best at, what your strengths are, and the things that you're weak in, don't try to think you can do everything.
Right.
Give those to people that are strong in those areas, and then you can have a team that's like equally strong, and you can really advance that way.
Yeah. Do you? I think some entrepreneurs struggle with that, right? Because they've had this business, they, it's their baby, isn't it? And they struggle to kind of give away a little bit of, I guess loosen their grip on it, and trust is the biggest thing, isn't it? But I guess when you got to that point, you'd had so much growth that you kind of had. I guess it wasn't too much of a risk for you to give that growth. I guess give the opportunity to someone to help. On a personal level, it's always hard. Of course.
Because generally you think you can do everything better than someone else when you start.
Yeah.
Because you're doing everything. And so somebody else comes along and you're going, I've been doing this. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so you've got to realize that you don't necessarily, you may know how to do it best for your exact particular circumstance, but somebody else can learn that and maybe then take off and go better than you. So it's sort of there's a little bit of a faith walk in there, is that you got to kind of let go and let them do it, but you want to kind of bring them along. But it's even today, same problem. So you never totally get over that, but you've got to make yourself do that. And of course, there's things that I just despise doing, and I'm happy to give those over. Like filling out forms and stuff like that, and doing taxes, and but other things that are a little more, I can do that, but I really don't have the time.
Yeah. So for people listening, take us from, I guess, when you plateaued to, I guess, now, right? Because you hire a marketing team, you're international now. You probably start going to more world shows around the world, having bigger stands, and kind of SEMA obviously is a huge show in Vegas for cars and just systems. But how was that process? And I guess as an entrepreneur, like were you traveling quite a lot? Like take us through that.
Yeah, but not incessantly. I mean, not nearly as much as other people in the company.
Yeah.
And I've never. I think part of that lesson was letting other people do their jobs and realizing what you do best. And so I don't have to be at every single show. I don't have to talk to every single person. I don't have to meet with every single big account. Yeah. And somebody else can do that. And so, tell the truth, I mean, I've never really worked myself to death at this thing.
Yeah.
The things that I do that I spend a lot of time on are things that I really like to do. And I've tried to let other people do the other stuff, and sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you thought. But you kind of have to be patient with that. And the other thing is that the second general manager that I hired had experience. He was a hospital administrator and had managed a lot of people, had experience administrating. And back in the 90s when he came on, we really needed that structure that we didn't have. And he structured the whole company with departments and our self-insured health insurance and our employee handbook and a lot of different things that we didn't have any of that. But one of the things that he told me is that he said, Steve, you got to let people make mistakes. I'm thinking, yeah, right. And I'm thinking, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's going to cost money.
It's going to cost, I'm making dollar signs, And, you start small and every dollar counts. So, but the thing of it is that what he's really saying is that, and if you want to grow, you've got to delegate. You've got to be giving up jobs all the time to other people, and they're going to make mistakes. And you can't micromanage everything, and you don't want to micromanage everything. And so they're going to make mistakes, and you've got to let them make mistakes. But if they learn from their mistakes, actually they progress, and so they become better employees, better managers, and the whole company grows for that. So I think that was a big lesson for me that I've tried to implement, is that somebody makes a mistake, that's okay. But, what do we learn from that? And move on, and not just fire somebody because they made a mistake, because everybody does. And we've had some expensive mistakes made, and I've made some expensive ones. So, but I think part of that letting go and things is being willing to let people make mistakes and hopefully learn from them and just keep moving. Yeah. And as long as they don't sink you, it's okay.
Yeah. Was there any big whoops moments that really kind of questioned your time like that?
Well, we've had multi-$100,000 mistakes before.
Yeah.
And but in proportion to the size of the company when they happened, it didn't kill us.
Yeah.
I mean, at first that would be instantly out of business.
Yeah.
So we had a pretty big mistake that was not exactly financial, but we accidentally released pay records of everybody in the company to everybody in the company.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a fun conversation.
That was a disaster.
Yeah.
And but it was an honest mistake.
That happens, yeah.
And part of it was because of our own fault in programming, that it was too easy to hit that key.
Yeah.
And we survived that disaster, and it was tough, but we all learned from it, and we improved our systems, and so everybody knew what everybody else made.
Yeah. So, and back to, you mentioned big accounts. I guess when the business evolved, you went then, I guess, to go after those big accounts, right? Like, I guess it probably went from the stores to, I mean, are the accounts kind of like, are they car manufacturers, that kind of account as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of, who was it, a lot of car manufacturers, or did you just kind of pick and choose as many as you could get?
Well, there's a couple of conscious decisions we made. First, we only sold to independent retailers. And they were a very protective bunch, still are to a certain degree, but they didn't like the big box stores, such as back in the day, Circuit City, of course, Walmart, and Best Buy.
Yeah.
And so we never sold to those guys. But there was a point in time that came that 50% or more of the car audio systems were being sold by big box stores. This is really before the days of the internet more. And at that point in time, we made a choice to go into one, and Circuit City. We began kind of courting them, and it's not easy, and none of them are easy to get into, and basically they don't want to pioneer anything. You've already got to be there, so you've kind of gotten there on the shoulders of the small guys, and then the big guys want to just take it and go.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, but how do you keep it equitable? So we spent a lot of time trying to develop programs and things that would make that equitable, and also protect the pricing so that they wouldn't undercut the other guys.
Yeah.
And I think we were reasonably successful in that, and still are, but we've always been cognizant of trying to protect the margin and protect the people that brought us to the dance, and also of everybody that we do business with.
Yeah.
And of course, with the internet, that became infinitely more difficult. But we have people full-time monitoring pricing on the internet now.
Yeah.
And so we monitor that really well. So we've been able to sell somewhat multi-channel. They call it omni-channel, which is pretty much what everybody does these days. And but you've got to control the pricing so that the big guys don't undercut the little guys and put them out of business. And the courting those people is long term, especially automakers.
Yeah.
Long term. They may just give you a little bit of business of an accessory item or something like that.
Yeah.
So you got to do really good with that, get to know people, and then of course about every 3 or 4 years they change buyers. So you got to start all over again. And so, but we've been fortunate, I think, over the years. But we've been courting automakers for 15 years.
Yeah.
And we have some good business going with a good number of them right now. It's not as big as our rest of our market, but it's stable business. And so getting into Best Buy was a big challenge for us. And we did some very big events in Las Vegas at the SEMA show, and we had a thing we called the Big Air Bash, which was a big outdoor party that was free at one night of the SEMA show, which is the biggest car show in the U.S. And we brought them to that, and to a suite in the Palms and overlooking the whole thing. And I think that was one of the things they said. I remember one of them said to the other one, we needed to be doing business with these guys, because basically we had our marketing act together. We were very visible in the marketplace, and that's what they're looking for. Is somebody that's kind of already there. They don't want
brand recognition, isn't it?
Yeah. They don't want to pioneer anything.
Yeah.
It's got to be a sure thing, or else they know they're going to get fired.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I know a guy who used to work at Ford. He was a marketing guy at Ford. I play a lot of golf with him, and he had some great stories about, you know, before social media back in the day, just like how everything worked out. And he was in Europe at the time as well, and he lives in Arizona now. But yeah, he had some, you know, just, I'm sure the business has evolved so much, right? But you're right, to that point, you have to be a sure thing, because the brand recognition, someone's going to see the KICKER name and think, I want a KICKER system in my car.
Yes.
And if it comes as standard, or if it comes as an option, then they want them to sell and upgrade and sell those options. And
you've got to kind of be there already for them to want you, you know.
Yeah.
They're not, the big companies are not pioneers in that aspect.
Yeah.
You know, they want something that's already recognized, and then they'll take it and add it to what they've got, and you know.
I guess to that point then, are you kind of like a big kind of car fan, automotive fan? Have you always kind of had a love of kind of just like, not just the systems in them, but just cars in general?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm not nearly as deep into it as a lot of people are, but I've always been a car guy, and just engines and bikes and motorcycles, and growing up I had go-karts, and we built everything. Yeah. So yeah, I've always loved that stuff. I refurbished my very first car, totally rebuilt it before I ever even drove it.
Yeah.
That was enough though for me. After that, I decided if I do this again, I'm going to have someone else do it.
Right.
And I've kind of gone that way with a lot of things, but I think that's part of being an entrepreneur that grows the business. You don't do everything yourself, but maybe you've done it before. But then you've done it, but that's not where you're stopping.
Yeah.
So you find other people that like to do that, and then you kind of, you know, build on that. And so it's part of like putting together a good team. But having some hands-on experience with a lot of these different things makes a huge difference, because when you're managing somebody, you kind of know you've done that before too.
Yeah.
And so it's not like, I think you get a little more respect for that. Plus you have more, you know, just intimate knowledge of what they're going through as well.
So the business obviously has evolved over time, you know, but, you know, you mentioned side-by-sides earlier, some home systems as well. I guess it probably gets really exciting when you get to the development phase and the new phase, right? You think, I mean, side-by-sides have taken off, right, in the last kind of 10 years or 5 to 10 years, and that's a whole thing now. And I have a friend who has a company, a recent company, because he was in the he did laser shows for big concerts and stuff. Well, last year his business was shut down because no one was having concerts. So he always had, you know, side-by-sides as a hobby, and now he has a shop building side-by-sides, and he installs, you know, your systems into people's side-by-sides at his house. So how has it been, I guess, you know, because like I said, you're getting, you know, you've been in the business so long now, and you know how everything works, but there's got to be a thing that makes you come to work every day, right? Little new niches and exciting things that pops up. So I guess how has that been, and you know, what keeps you excited to come to work every day, I guess?
Well, and I'm always looking for something exciting, I guess, you know, and one of the things that's really changed the landscape is social media. And so you can get on social media and see what's going on in the side-by-side world, the car audio world, whatever you want. And you can come at it from any different angle, from Pinterest to Facebook to groups to clubs to it's all there on your phone. And so a lot of the things that I do and also, of course, we're heavily involved in that too, is I like to stay in touch with the customer. And it's on social media, it's much easier than just going out and talking to people, which we do that. And we did a lot of that before COVID, and we were traveling, you know, visiting dealers, multiple dealers every year, our general manager and I. But I read all the comments, you know, what they say about our products and also about other people's products, as much as I have time for.
Because I
like to hear what they have to say. And they just may be haters, you know, and they're just griping about something. But on the other hand, there may be a grain of truth in there. And so I try not to, just get offended and stuff. I try to see what is there, what are they really saying? Is there something we can do better?
Yeah.
And so, or are there new things happening? And
well, it's real research, isn't it? And and people are extremely honest on social media because they're not worried about people seeing them.
Sometimes overly so. And but it does make. I love it because it makes research really easy.
Yeah.
And like when I first started the business, if I wanted to find out, and the web, just the web in general, if I wanted to find out something about speakers when I started off, which I was dying to do, I went to the OSU library and I checked out. I got every book on speakers, and there was a handful. That was it, if that many.
Yeah.
And I went through every magazine article there, and I copied every article on speakers, popular mechanics and, popular science and all these things. And, there were guys that would write an article every once in a while on how to build a bass reflex enclosure. And so I was trying to figure this all out. And now it's like anything I want to know, it may be not true, but no, when it comes to like technical things, generally it's good stuff,
Yeah.
And so I like that aspect of it, being able to gain knowledge and understanding. Of course, then you got to figure out what to do with it.
Right.
But anyway, that's changed the landscape a lot, and so keeping up with things, what's happening, much easier to do now. And I think a lot of times our questions are, how far do we want to go down this trail or this trail? Because there's so many different things that we could do and things that we have done in the past.
Yeah.
And so you've got to, right now, frankly, we're limited in how many products we can develop by supply chain and all these things that are jammed up because of COVID.
Yeah.
And the factories are overloaded. And primarily our products built in China. And it started off, I've always contracted the manufacturing, which is, like I said, I do something myself, but then I figure out if there's someone that can do it better than me, and then I can use that and then do something else too.
Do the install
and so, but in the 90s, it started to happen that the Asians were showing up at the trade shows. We could build this for you, and I'm going, that's a third of the cost of what I'm paying. It must not be any good. And so I would just dismiss it.
Yeah.
And finally, some people said, well, we'll send you a sample. I'm like, okay, send me a sample. Yeah. And so we'd start with a little speaker terminal and then just, okay, this is like, okay, we could do this. Yeah. And so they gradually won the business. And so most all our business is manufactured in China. I mean, it's been everywhere from Japan to Taiwan to Korea, but eventually everybody went to China because when China opened up, a lot of the factories in China, they're not Chinese China factories.
Yeah.
They're Japanese factories in China, Taiwanese factories in China, Korean factories in China, you name it. But they're going there because that's where the manufacturing is best done. Their headquarters may be somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, because everybody buys there now, everything's jammed up. And they've got, 30, 40, 50, 60 ships sitting in the harbor in LA. They can't even get into the port to unload.
Wow.
So us trying to develop a new product right now.
Yeah, it's not the time.
It's not the time. So that's been a real constraint on, in fact, we've got a lot of really cool new stuff, but we just cannot get it out.
But the good thing, everyone else, I guess, is in the same boat, right?
Literally.
So to speak. Yeah, everyone's, that was not intentional, I promise.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's still frustrating for me because I like to develop new stuff.
Right.
And regardless of whether anybody else can or not, that's sort of the exciting and fun part why I come to work. And so now I'm like, we got these products, and I'd like to, there's more stuff I'd like to do, but there's no point in even really hardly starting it. And I take it to R&D and we're talking, they're going, yeah, right,
Yeah, it's not.
We can't even get what we started last year.
Yeah.
We can't even get the final samples to try to get that completed and even get it into production. And so it's just another challenge, you know.
Sure.
As in business, there's always a challenge. But the good part is that COVID has actually been very, very good to our company.
Yeah.
Because we have something people can do at home. They can install a car stereo at home.
Gotcha.
It's a hobby. It's fun. You can do it by yourself. You don't have to go to music concerts to enjoy it. And so we've had just a huge boom in our whole industry because of this being at home, wanting something to do, and also having a stimulus check, or maybe collecting unemployment, and then being home with nothing to do.
Yeah.
If anybody's been into car audio, they're probably getting back into it now. And it's so interesting times.
Yeah, no doubt. That's good to hear. So earlier you mentioned obviously SEMA's a huge show, and you know, and on my way up here is hilarious. I passed a giant KICKER semi-trailer going that way. Did that leave here this morning and head down? It looked like a car hauler. It was huge.
Yes.
Which I thought that was funny.
Evidently it did.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of where it was. That was in the back just the other day.
Yeah,
so.
I saw that leaving here. You know, on the way up I-35. I was like, oh, that's kind of fitting that I passed that today.
Well, trying to think. I think there's a show that we're going to.
Yeah.
We normally have that out and show vehicles and stuff all summer long, traveling to different shows, because we like to do the in-person stuff,
right?
And rub shoulders with people, or elbows these days.
These days, yeah.
And but now we're able to get back to some of that. And interestingly enough, what we've done, I know I'm going down a few rabbit trails, but COVID has changed everything. And so what we decided to do, we also do CES, which is the Consumer Electronics show in January, just as big as SEMA, but it's all
tech
electronics rather than cars. But cars have electronics too. So SEMA was online virtually only last year, and we said, I think we can do our own online show.
Yeah.
And because we'll be one of thousands of exhibitors, how can we show our stuff?
Yeah.
And so we took our big conference room in the back, which is big, it'll seat 300 people, cleared it out, brought in our show vehicles, our booth displays, everything, and we bought a bunch of cameras and video equipment, because we weren't going to Vegas. We still only spent...
Well, yeah, you had all that money that you could spend now,
We only spent a third as much, even doing all that we do, taking everybody to Vegas. We have 60 people we take to Vegas for a week and set up a big booth. And we did, and we learned, we taught ourselves, and we learned to do video, and we did our complete CES show 3 days online.
That's awesome.
First one was for our reps, second day for dealers only, third day for the general public, which the general public never gets to go to CES because it's the dealer only show.
Yeah.
And we showed them all our new stuff and went through each product, and it was like super effective. And we went on for 5 hours, and we lost very few people in 5 hours.
That's amazing. It
was, and we were giving away stuff too, and so we made it kind of fun. But now we're doing a weekly show that's about an hour and a half long. And so we've gotten into this video thing of showing our products and introducing new products on video. We're not going back to CES. It had slowed way down for us anyway. It's too expensive. Most of our competitors were out already. But SEMA is growing, and it's a good show. So we'll do that live, but we'll also do it online.
Of course,
And then we'll do CES, or at the first of the year, we'll do a show online. And so that's something that's changed greatly. And like I said, I am not an expert in that. I'm not an online TV personality, but we've got a couple of guys, and one in particular that is great at that. He's a natural, and he knows the product deep. He can go deep. And he's not just he's not even a pretty face. He's a good-looking guy, but he's got the personality and the knowledge, and so he's hosting that show, and we're bringing on other personalities in the car audio industry and interviewing them and talking about it. So it's not just about KICKER, but so this is a whole new deal for us this year, And but I have virtually nothing to do with it other than saying, go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I mean, to that point, right, Geneva Motor Show was cancelled, and there's big, like Ferrari and all these people are saying, no, we're not going to go back, right? Because then you have, like I said, you have all this available money that you would spend on a booth there to now put into this online stuff, which more people can see, and you get more reach out of it, which now it makes total sense. Do you guys have much, I guess, stuff in, I guess, the YouTube kind of side of things? Because there's plenty of, obviously, automotive YouTube pages are a huge draw as well.
Well, this is and we're doing this show on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Previously, we had not had that much.
Yeah.
And we keep saying we need to get into it more. We need to get into, our YouTube channel more.
Yeah.
I mean, we were into Facebook, Instagram posting, and all that stuff, and Twitter, but we have a dedicated social media guy, and we have camera people too, but we hadn't really done the YouTube thing. We had a YouTube channel, but now we've got this show every week, 7:30, from 7:30 to 9-ish.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes later. And we've got a steady audience. We have, like, on the average of maybe 300 to 400 comments during the show.
Yeah.
Because guys are getting on the show. Hey, what's happening? Hey, so you're here,
Yeah.
So it's this kind of community thing. And then they're asking questions, and we answer questions, and we have some other YouTube personalities come on. It's all virtual right now.
Yeah.
When we get back to traveling, we'd like to actually have them here and do more stuff than just sitting there. But anyway, it's opened up a whole new world.
Yeah.
We still think face-to-face is tremendously important, and we will continue to do that as we can. But this will just be a supplement to that.
Yeah.
But we're going to cut back some on, like, CES trade show.
Well, I guess when you have your own show, you can control what you put out. It's totally directed to the customer, and you dive into the comments and you start engaging with them. Right? You ask them, hey, what do you want to see next week? What questions do you have? It's easy to host a Q&A show from last week's questions.
Exactly what they're doing.
And you get buy-in, and it builds customer value, doesn't it?
Right.
And you give them a shout out. Hey, this question's from John in Norman or wherever it is.
Absolutely.
It's really cool to do that, and I'm a big proponent of it. I love it. I wouldn't have a podcast without it. Social media's been great for the podcast and some of the other businesses that I'm in. And I do a podcast 2 or 3 episodes a week, and some of them are over Zoom. And one of the ones recently we had was a lady in Tulsa, and she's like, I did 98% of my business through Facebook last year.
Yeah.
And that business provides for her family, and I love it. It's fantastic.
It's a whole nother world.
Yeah.
And it's just being kind of broken open. Mm-hmm. I mean, for a lot of us, I think. But the questions and the interaction, and what we're doing is not a big long infomercial. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's information. In general too, and so we obviously have our products on there, and occasionally we talk about them, or if we introduce something, we do. But a good part of the show is just about car audio in general, and experiences people have had and cars they built and things like that. So so we're getting a good viewership, and they're doing some crazy stuff, like the guys that produce the show, it's at 7:30, so they order in food or go get food before the show. So when they're starting the show, they're just tell them what they had to eat before they get on there. Well, Ernie, he had a double hamburger, and I had, blah, blah.
But you make it personal by doing that.
Yeah, so they're just kind of joking around, and so guys are writing in, well, I'd like a pizza and stuff. So what they did a pizza giveaway. And so, these guys enter in the contest, and then the winner for the next show, we had a Domino's pizza delivered to the guy's house.
Yeah.
Turns out he's in Tulsa. And then he gets on Zoom on the thing, and he's eating pizza with his wife and his little daughter as they're watching the show, eating the Domino's pizza. And just, we don't dwell on it, but just kind of fun stuff.
Of course it is. A way to build raving fans, isn't it? That competition's probably not doing, right? So simple, and that pizza didn't cost you much.
People are looking for engagement and something fun. But then we've got the technical stuff as well, but this one guy was always posting about his bearded dragon, which is a bearded dragon.
Yeah.
You know, what are those, lizards?
I think, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
lizards.
terrible, but yeah, I would assume it was a lizard.
So anyway, he's always saying, and about my bearded dragon, or
Yeah.
you know, he always throws something in. So what they did for last week, Sandy, one of the ladies that works on it occasionally behind the scenes, so she took and made a little tiny T-shirt that says "Kicker Unmasked." That's the name of our show.
Yeah.
That would fit a bearded dragon.
That's brilliant.
And gonna send it to him.
Yeah.
And so
That's
now
so
the
cool.
advertisement for the next show shows a bearded dragon. It's his, you know, they put it together, with this little Kicker T-shirt on his back.
That's so good.
And so, you know, just silly kind of fun stuff mixed in with the serious stuff.
Yeah.
And so people tune in and they like it. And I don't know where it'll go, but I mean, this is where we're at right now with it.
Yeah.
But people like to engage. Plus, that they've been stuck at home, you know. They're wanting.
Well, they also like to be seen as well, right? And recognized.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And people just click on, say, so-and-so in the house, you know. And so it's a kind of a community thing. And you know, I would have never guessed we were doing anything like that.
Right. Yeah. When you look back at, you know, just saying to, you know, Dad, hey, can I have this $300, you know, thing? And he's just
you don't know where it's going to go, right?
No, but can we build it? Maybe. You know, and it's, you know, and you come here, right, and you know, you go through 70s, through 80s, and that huge boom in the 80s, you ride the wave, you get in the 90s, and internet comes out, plateaus a little bit, and then you just, you know, you just, it evolves, right? There's so many stories over the years you've been in business, and now to this point, right? You'd never thought you'd have a YouTube show, you know, and sending T-shirts for a bearded dragon to people, right? I mean, it's amazing how the stories come and how the business evolves, and you know, I'm sure you're extremely grateful for every opportunity you've had, and I mean, for your wife for giving you the opportunity working, and you know, it's just. It's an awesome story. I really appreciate you sharing. It means a lot, and I hope everyone listening appreciates it as well. I want to be, you know, respectful of your time. I know we're getting a little long-winded, and people are probably done walking their dogs right now or driving in their car. But I want to thank you so much.
You can
for coming
edit
on the
it down
podcast.
to about
I'm not going to edit
15
it. There's some
minutes,
great stories
right?
in
Okay.
here. But yeah, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast, and thank everyone, you know, for listening and tuning in. And I'll put, you know, obviously the link to the website if they haven't already been there, and the YouTube show in the description. But Steve, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Bet. Absolutely.
Amazing facility up here in Stillwater. If you guys want to come up and see it and just look around, you know, the stores here as well, right? You can buy some merch and check it out. But for everyone listening, we will catch you next episode. Cheers.
Awesome.
This podcast is presented by the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, telling Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Also, huge shout out to RCB Bank for jumping on board to be a sponsor. RCB Bank's loan promotion is here for a limited time. Head into any of their 40 Oklahoma locations to get as low as 1.79 APR on your next car, boat, camper, or ATV. Apply online at rcbbank.com. RCB Bank, that's my bank. Rate and finance with approved credit. Restrictions apply. And member FDIC. Huge shout out to my sponsors. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.